there, everybody. My name is Sean Donnelly, and you are watching Comedy Cellar Nightly, and I'm really excited. It's usually a whole crew, but I'm so excited because you get to hang out with me and my very good friend, hilarious comedian Liz Miele. How are you, Liz?
I feel so special. I feel like
I know.
This is what I've always wanted. I've always wanted it to be just about me. I hope Emma doesn't show up.
We're supposed to have Emma Willmann. You know what it is? It actually is very, very indicative, very, very good example of the table, because sometimes it is just two comics at the table. It's not always some Algonquin round table type discussion. Sometimes it's just a couple of pals, comedy pals hanging out, correct?
Yeah. Oh, my favorite is I'm like there. I'm just getting dinner in between spots. And then somebody's like, oh, can I sit down? And I go, yeah, I feel like I've been at a high school lunch table and I farted and nobody wants to hang out with me. I was like, I literally am like, how do they have 3 rooms and I'm the only one here? You always feel like you misread the sheet or something. It always feels like you did something wrong when you're sitting by yourself.
Yeah, like, is there no shows tonight? What happened?
Or like, is there a party and nobody invited me? That's really where I get the FOMO. Where I'm like, cool, there's some album release or something and I didn't know about it and I'm the only loser that's at the table.
I was just talking about that with somebody. I'm like, I guess it happens in everything, but the FOMO and the jealousy and comedy is so palpable and so it's like part of it. Like it's really is part of it. And it's like, it's the kind of thing where it's almost like a, what do they call it? Where it's like what's the Greek mythology tale where they're pushing the boulder up the hill until the very end, and then it gets pushed right. It drops right down right before it gets to the top.
I know the story.
Forget, whatever it is, but that's like comedy, because everybody, like, you do all this work to get to a certain point, and then you're like, no, but now this, but now this, but now this.
But you know what it feels like? It feels like to me, you're an 8th grader. And you're now like the king of the castle. Like it's usually 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And you're like the head honcho. Then you go to high school, you're back down to being a freshman when there's seniors. So then you work your way up to being a senior. And now you're the head honcho of high school. Then you go to college and you're back to being a freshman again. So then you go, and then finally you're a senior in college, but then you become an intern or you're constantly like, you'll get to the next level, but now you're the baby person at this new level. And you're like, I feel like I only feel cool for about 3 days.
Yes. And also, like, quarantine's not helping. Like, quarantine is like, if it's going to knock you back a couple of grades, like, hypothetical grades, quarantine is like doing that. I just saw an ad for Brian Regan at Good Nights in Raleigh, which is a great club. But I was like, oh my God, I'll be back in clubs in 2030. Like
if Brian's doing clubs, what are we gonna do?
Exactly. That's how I feel. I'm like, oh my God, it's like to work your way back up that hill again. I'm like, oh, it just seems so exhausting. Everything's changing so much. Like this is it right now. Like this kind of stuff, live streaming stuff, podcasts, and everybody's doing it. But it's like, I don't know. We started probably around the same time, and like it's like. It's just the idea of it has changed so much. Like it's not like, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think like live stand-up will take like a back seat to everything now, because it seems so much more accessible for people to like put themselves on Instagram Live or push their podcast?
All those things have been around, I think.
Yeah, but this is really putting it in the forefront.
No, true. I completely agree with that. And I have found some benefits as somebody that just started a podcast in March, you know what I mean? Because I was like, oh God, I need something to do so I don't hurt myself.
Right.
But
what's your podcast? What's it called again, by the way? So you can
Two
tell
Non-Doctors.
Right. Yes, you guys met. It's like WebMD, but way more fun to listen to.
Oh, it's actually just 2 morons talking about stuff they don't know, and that's why it's fun. We actually talked about it on an episode recently. I was like, do we have to do like a liability stuff? Because we're talking about medical stuff and we're idiots. And I go, every episode I go, don't listen to me, I'm a moron. If that's not enough for liability, I don't know what to tell you. We're called 2 Non-Doctors.
That'd be so funny if you got the disclaimer person to do one for the opening of the podcast.
Yeah. Nothing that these women say is factually true. They're both morons. I probably should get that done. You know what is actually kind of funny? So what we do is like, you know, everybody's hurting. So look, we have a Patreon, you know, we ask people to donate, but like mostly we're like, just rate and review us. Like that kind of helps more people see us.
Yeah.
And, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Too.
And maybe we'll have one rich person give to our Patreon. So we're really like, what we kind of hammer is our reviews. So I check, and it takes a couple of days for reviews to show up. So I, like every couple of days, check to see if we got any new reviews. And then I send them to Maria, and it's almost like I'm sending her money overseas. She's like, oh, someone else liked us. Like she gets so excited.
Yes, yes.
So anyway, I was looking for them and we didn't have any new reviews, but then I see all these celebrities are doing podcasts and I go, is this new? And then you see they all started like 2 months ago. And I go, now celebrities are doing podcasts.
Yeah. Oh
like
my
it
God.
was already saturated. And now you have like legit celebrities doing podcasts. And I was like, now, like, it's so funny to feel like comedy's dead, but now like even podcasting, like who's going to listen to me if they could listen to like George Clooney? Not that he has a podcast, but it almost feels like
somebody like that. Yeah, exactly.
It almost feels like George Clooney's like, let me talk to my friends. I'm like, he has the coolest friends.
Yeah.
I'm your friend. I'm your guest right now. This is not going well, Sean.
No, we're not. There's probably a few people watching this, but you're right. There's so many choices. And while you're stuck at home, like everybody had the same idea at once, which was like, oh, I'll stream to everybody. They'll watch me, whatever. You know, they're just talking about like, oh my God, just adding more horses to the race is insane.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's like yeah.
Go ahead.
No, and I feel for, like, I just told somebody the other day, like, I'm happy this happened in 2020 and not 1995. Like, I would be a mess right now because not only do I have any inability other than talking to my friends on the phone, there's no FaceTime, there's no podcast, there's no Zoom shows, you know what I mean? There's no Instagram live. I mean, we're talking about email and your telephone, and you really feel ostracized and isolated. And
in 95, your email was like it was like you could like, maybe you were using it like letters, like you were emailing it like you were writing a letter to somebody.
Yeah, I wonder if I had one in 1995. I definitely had one in 1999, and it was Squiddly Diddly at AOL.com.
Squiddly Diddly. Where did that come from?
It's an old cartoon.
I've never heard of it. When was that on?
It was a squid. God, you should be able
makes
to
sense.
do that. It was like a funny squid. It was like the same. I don't think it was Warner Brothers. It was the same people that did like Baloo, like Hey Boo Boo, like what's
Hanna-Barbera?
Yes, it was them. Yeah. It was one of the Hanna-Barbera ones, and I was a big cartoon nerd, and I liked it. And what's crazy is I'm dyslexic, and I would have to write. People would be like, "What's your email?" And I would have to write it out. This is how long I knew I had it. I started stand up in 2002.
Okay.
And that was still my email. And I was working with like a booker that booked like open mics and stuff like that. And I was 16 years old. And he goes, what's your email? And I said, it's squiddlydiddly2 at AOL.com. And he put down his pen. He was like writing it. And he put down his pen. He goes, you get a better email. And then you can email me. Like, and I was like, and that's how I came up with just like my name at gmail.com, like or AOL.com. But like,
wait, did you have, because Gmail wasn't, did Gmail exist back then?
It might have, but I switched to Gmail like 3 years ago. I was very slow.
Whoa. I had mine. I think mine was ShawneeD519 at AOL.com.
Nice.
And I remember it's a pretty good one. And I used to have, like, I remember I used to use Instant Messenger a lot. Like, I remember that was like the earliest, like Dane Cook was like the earliest guy to like get in touch with his fans over Instant Messenger, and people would like, they would attribute that to like why he rose and like got so famous, was like he would, like somebody said like they saw some picture or something where it was like his computer with like 100 AIM Instant Messenger things open, and he just would talk to every single fan.
Wow.
That's like grassroots show business type shit. And it worked out for him for a while, at least. Now he's kind of
he's not getting back to people. Could you imagine if he circled back around? He's like, hey, I can see from my stats you bought 2 of my albums. How's it going? He's like, oh, I don't like the new stuff. Well, can I maybe try out some jokes on you? But that's what I always admired about him, is that like he figured out, because like he'd been doing it forever. And I very much, as somebody that has had more of an impact with social media than I ever had with like TV appearances. I feel very grateful for social media, but also I feel very grateful to the fans that like, I have fans that will like watch my special and be like, this was awesome. And I go, hey, I have 2 other albums. One of them, you know, I just put the video on YouTube, so that's free. And I have a podcast now, and I'm writing a book, and they'll be like, oh, it's so cool. Like most people, like they watch something and they think art lives in a bubble where you made a thing, and it's so many people don't realize you've been doing this half your life, and that you like, even to survive, you can't just do stand-up. Like, you know us, we're constantly doing like 9 different things.
Well, it's so funny because that you're right, because even like what in the comedy world, like we know things before other people. Like I remember one of the times I realized that was when I was watching something and they were talking about it was just like probably honestly at this point, I don't know, 7 years ago, and they talked about John Mulaney, and they called him an up and coming comedian.
And John we all Mulaney. Were like, what? He's one of the best. How is he up and coming?
Yeah. He's not up and coming. He's been around forever, and he's amazing. And but we would, when you're in it, you know the ones that are, know who's making it to that next level.
But it's kind of funny. My special was mentioned in the New York Times 2 weeks ago, and I was called a veteran. And I was also written up in a different article, and I was called an up and comer.
So that's so funny.
And I was very grateful. And that writer is clearly a comedy, like he's the comedy writer for the New York Times, and he does his research, and he's very sweet. But what I find so funny is that we, like, just even think of our careers. We were like hosting or doing like feature spots for like $9, but also headlining and making good money within the same week. And I feel like we live as a nobody and a somebody in the same void.
Yeah. And now the nobody part is, even when you get to a certain level of like where you're making headway, you're still kind of a nobody, because there's so much of it that now it's not that traditional ladder of success. It's like this, oh yeah, this portion of people knows about you. Like there's no more like Johnny Carson type situations where you do one thing and
nobody's ever going to be as famous as Michael Jackson again.
Never. No way.
Because there's too many channels, there's too many outlets, there's too many streaming, so like Sarah Silverman posed with a rapper. This was maybe like a year ago. And she was like, one of the best rappers out there. She's amazing. And I was like, oh, like I love hip hop. I looked her up. She has 9 million Instagram followers. I've never heard of her in my life.
Oh no, that happens to me left and right.
And I'm just like, I love music, and I'm pretty into hip hop, and I feel pretty current. And I was like, she's that famous. Never heard of her. Yeah. And you're just kind of like, and that's why I love like Chance the Rapper. Oh, Emma's here.
Oh, look who decided to join the club here. Look at this.
All the way from outer space.
Oh my God. Speaking of big shots, what's up, Big Shot? Thanks for showing up fashionably late.
I'm so sorry. I'm in LA and I'm getting my time zones all screwed up. But
sure you are.
Oh,
sure
you have 2 dyslexics on the show. I actually stand by that excuse.
Oh, and I have a learning disability. I had ADD and a learning disability as a kid.
See? Yeah.
What do you mean you had?
Yeah.
Still have it. Still have it.
Yeah.
Haven't had to take any tests lately, so it hasn't come out.
Yeah.
It's so good to see your guys' faces. Oh my God.
Good to see you. Did you guys? So dyslexia is much. That's tough. When you were a kid, like. I had like extra time for my tests. How would they do you guys' tests when you were kids?
It depends. I think I was so embarrassed, and I felt like I was smarter than it, but I still needed it. And I actually kind of regret what I did. I tried to get out of it so that I was in the special like needs class. Cause they also put like somebody somebody that had disciplinary issues and somebody that was blind. Like my mom always called, like we were always in special classes because all my other 4 siblings are also dyslexic. But my mom would call it like
really
for felons. Oh yeah, my dad's dyslexic.
Wow.
Me and all my siblings are dyslexic.
Is there genetics involved?
Very much so. Yeah.
Well, obviously. Oh my God.
Yeah. So like, chemistry for criminals, physics for felons. She thought it was so funny because we were always in a class where there was always an extra teacher. And like, I'd be like, Mom, I was trying to learn, but I didn't, she was writing too fast. And like, so you would either have a special person helping you or you were in a special class. And I was so embarrassed by it. And they made you feel so like there was something wrong with you. So I just kind of faked it, and I did my best to get out of it. So I didn't have it in high school, and I regret it because I definitely needed extra time on the SATs. I definitely needed extra time on tests.
Did you go to like a big public school, or was it a small?
Yeah, but I went to, I would say like a medium-sized public school.
Same here. And I did the same thing that you did. I had extra time on tests that I didn't take because I didn't want to. I used to have to take medicine. I took Ritalin when I was a kid and it used to fuck me up so bad. I used to do this, and then I got to like high school age, and I would take a thing called Dexedrine that was time release. And I literally I would be able to scam it. I would like do this thing where I would take the little paper cup, drink the water, spit it back into the cup, and then throw it away like that. Wow. Like I didn't want to take it. And then one day, I don't know what, I wasn't thinking, and I spit the medicine into the sink, and the sink had one of those covers that has all the holes on it, so it's not going to go down the drain at all. Right. So she saw it, and then from that day forward, every time I went to the nurse's office, it was almost like I was in prison. She'd have to watch me take my medicine.
That surprised me because usually everyone wants to take the pill or they want to like sneak it out to sell it because people.
Oh, that's now. That's like kids now. This is back in the 90s. You know?
Yeah, he's like, I wasn't that smart. I was in the special classes.
Yeah.
I did the extra time in the SAT, and I remember being so embarrassed because all my friends, I went with a group of friends who took it on the same day, and they went in to take the test. And then I was in special ed, but I was in high school, but I was able to I would always make it seem like I was in a different class. So I wasn't like,
yeah.
But in SAT, I couldn't do it. They were like, where are you going, Emma? The test isn't here. And I was like, I have to go to the special room. And it sucked.
And then think about how you think of it in high school. In high school, you're like, oh my God.
Different.
This is my universe. Like, you just like your reactions to things are so much more dramatic because you're like, oh, what are they going to think? What's everybody going to think?
I ran into a kid in my in the SAT extra time class, though. This kid, John Nesbitt, and I had no idea he had ADD or was dyslexic. And I went in there and I was like, John? And he was like, Emma. And then we had like
a bonding
moment. Yeah. And we both were trying to cheat too.
I had the same kind of thing where I had extra time, and I would do the thing where I wouldn't take it. I should have taken it, and I would not take it because I was like, I'll leave it with everybody else. I didn't do special ed classes. I would do this place called Resource Room. You guys probably had something like that where it was like I'd go there once a day to work on everything from the other classes.
Yeah.
If you had the extra time though, because I did have the extra time, I still didn't know how to do this stuff. Like it didn't make that big.
Yeah. That's the other thing. Is like, I'm still not learning.
Yeah.
Right. I was just upset longer.
Yeah. I regret not taking the extra time. And also like, I was a con artist. Like honestly, school taught me how to blend, how to cheat, basically I learned, it makes me think it made me a pretty good comic and a good, not friend, but a way to like assimilate at a party, because basically you go, okay, this teacher cares if you show up on time, if you do at least 2 participation questions, and if you do your homework. And they don't really care about the tests. Okay, this teacher only cares about the test, but you don't even have to show up to the class. So both high school and college, I just learned how to manipulate the situation to get the A. So I was an A-B student, but I didn't learn anything. So like I would figure out how to read just enough to know what we're talking about. Or my participation would be like, what was confusing about that? And I would get points because I was like thinking about it. But I didn't even read the paragraph. I didn't even read the book.
Right. You were hot potatoing it.
I was just like, well, that's interesting that Sarah said that, but like, is it any different from chapter 2? And they go, oh, that's a really good point. I'm like, thank God, that's a good point.
Yeah. And as long as you sound inquisitive and smart, they're gonna be like, wow, good job.
I still do that. I do John Fugelsang's Sirius XM show, which is all politics. And my boyfriend gets so mad at me because he's like super into politics. And he'll listen to NPR and I'll hear some stuff and I'll read like a tweet headline or whatever. But they'll tell you the stories and I don't read it. And then he'll go and he'll be like, Liz, what do you think of this Trump thing? And I'd be like, I think it's dumb. Like, what do you think? Right. And he's like, you always know. And I was like, yeah, but I just know how to like, it really
you can fake it. You can fake it easily,
And the whole point of those shows is just to be funny. So it's just like, I can just make fun of myself within a political spectrum.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you take pills in college?
In college, no, and I should have because I don't know why it's kind of weird where what happened was, all right, so I had Ritalin as a kid and then something else, and then Dexedrine was the last thing that I took. But when I graduated, there was no follow-up for me to like keep taking it for college. I don't know why. I have no idea why. And I never, I was the time, I kind of wish, I don't know if you guys ever wished this, or maybe you guys were, when it came to college or came to high school even, I wish I went now. Like I wish I went.
Absolutely.
If I went now, I would be so into a lot of the classes that I was not into when I was in school.
I didn't know. I didn't learn how I specifically learn until I was 25. That's just a fact. Like it wasn't until reading books about dyslexia, and then even like learning about actually social media and reading certain books where I was trying to learn something, I would see that these books, okay, this book isn't really teaching me anything, or I'm having trouble absorbing the information. Oh, this book has like a lot of pictures, and they go over stuff, and there's arrows and shit. Like I learned more about how I specifically learn and at the pace that I knew how to learn in my 20s, to the point where I really wish when I was 25, I could have gone, and I knew what I wanted. I always wanted to do stand-up, but and I was doing it at a young age, but now as I write more screenplays and I become more of a writer, now I actually know what I want to do and how I could learn, that I feel like I would have been more diligent and more accepting of how my brain worked, and really wanted to learn the stuff. Like I really regret going to college right after high school.
I want to talk about that, like, because I didn't know you started at 16. Maybe I heard that once before, but I didn't know that. That's a very Chappellian like thing to do.
I'm almost Chappelle. I've been saying it for years.
Me too. I've been putting on my blog for years. And but like when you started, because you're from Jersey, right? You Jersey?
Yeah.
So it must have been, when you say you started at 16, because a lot of people are like, I started in college, and then you find out they had like a stand-up comedy club they went to, like literally an extracurricular club that they went to. Curricular, I couldn't say the word. When you started, were you going to like, you weren't going to bars, obviously. Were you going to like coffee houses and stuff like that?
My
or were
first
you trying
show
to go
ever.
to open mics at clubs?
It's so funny. I told this to SD like maybe a year after I got passed. My first show ever was the Comedy Cellar Bringer Show. It was a bringer show. They don't even do that anymore. It was 2002. And I brought 5 friends, and Dean Obeidallah was hosting. I don't know if anybody else, it was a bringer show, so I don't know who the other pros were, but I remember Dean. He's on my tape. Julia Razi had a show in Brooklyn years ago where they showed your first set, and I was like, hey, I have it on VHS, but I don't know how to watch it. And she's like, if you give it to me, I'll turn it into an MP4. So I was able to, and it was horrific. Just, I looked like this, but a little chubbier cheeks. So the first show I did was a bringer, and I think maybe the second show I did was at a bar called Rose's Turn around the corner from the Cellar. That was a bringer.
Yeah, Irish bar, right?
I don't know if it was Irish. It was like almost like a cabaret. Like it was really small. I saw Carmen Lynch was at my second show I ever did, and I remember because the stage was really high, and I was like, that woman is a giant. Like I just remember her so clearly. Fast forward, like a couple years later, we become friends. But I did open mics, and like I didn't know better. I was 16, and somebody told me to do these bringer shows. So I did maybe like Gotham's bringer show, and then after doing a couple of bringer shows, I was like, I ran out of friends, and I started doing more open mics. And then when I was 16, 17, I got introduced to Ha Comedy Club, and you could hand out flyers to get stage time. So I started barking pretty, like I did open mics, and I continue to do open mics, but I did just as many barking shows. And with Ha, they had 2 rooms, 4 to 8 shows.
Yeah, it was like a chop shop, that place.
I went into LOL a bunch.
LOL was not as bad as Ha was.
Wasn't.
It wasn't, and they treated you slightly better at LOL. It was the same caliber of audience in the sense that they were tricking people into these rooms. Right. So I was handing out flyers for an hour to get 7 minutes, and we're talking about 6 months, a year into doing stand-up, and I'm in front of real audiences with a fair amount of people doing stand-up. It was, I was thrown to the wolves and got real as much as it was I worked there for like 2.5 years, and I'm glad they kicked me out, because I think a lot of people get
Why they kicked you out?
I wrote an article because they had a couple of like clubs like in Yonkers and other places, and I wrote an article in Danny LaBelle's comedy magazine.
Danny LaBelle is a comic that used to live in New York and used to have a radio show called Comical Radio.
I think that's what it was called, the Comical or something like that. So we had a little magazine or like a web, like a zine or whatever. And I wrote an article about a dingy comedy club in Yonkers, and the owner read it and he was like, dingy, and I was like, yeah, it's dingy. I was like, I didn't name it, and they kicked me out, and I was devastated. I was, I think, 19 years old. I was either 18 or 19, and I was devastated because I mostly worked there and a couple of open mics, and I was working a ton. I mean, I was 18 years old, like from 16, 17 to 18, 19, I was doing like 10 shows a week. Like I was doing,
that's great.
Like, think about comics right now in the open mic circuit. They would love to do 5 shows a week, and I'm doing it in front of real audience, and it was brutal, and I'm barking in 0-degree weather, and people are being mean to me, and like there's tons of things that weren't great about it. And it's, you know, clearly a very shitty comedy club. Not dingy.
Those hot guys were like, they were like, those hot guys were like Times Square electronic salesmen. Like they were like just the worst.
Yep.
Just the worst. I remember going down there and like they would be at that table like checking. I'd be like, oof, this is just bad.
But I met some incredible people. Like Rodney Laney is still a great friend of mine. I mean,
yeah, no, that's different. Yeah.
I mean, there's some guys that are still in it, some guys that aren't. But I felt people cared about me, and as a young girl, there was a lot of people that looked out for me. I'm a young girl in Times Square.
Sure.
I used to do my homework from college at the table. But I got a shit ton of stage time very early in my career. And I give a lot of credit to that, because we all know being comfortable on stage, but getting those bombs in, getting the wording of stuff, like even just like, honestly, I became really close with Mike DiStefano, and he was one of the first people that like recommended me to a manager, told me that my writing was smart. Like there was a lot of people that early on, even if I wasn't doing well on stage, saw my potential. And I think that's really important. And I try to remember that when like a young comic asks me for advice, I go, hey, this is a little raw, but I can see where your mind's going, and I think you're onto something. And you and try to, at the very least, let them know it's going to be uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean you're not going to get better.
Emma, did you start in Boston or no?
I started in Boston, but I actually remember when I first moved to New York, and I remember that it was freezing. I moved in the winter, and I remember seeing an ad saying, "Do you want stage time?" It was something like, "Did you just move here and do you want stage time?" Like it felt very targeted to me.
Right.
You're like, they're like, Emma, do you want stage time?
Yeah, exactly. That's what it felt like. And I remember seeing it, and I was on Craigslist. So I was like, oh, this is innovative. I'm on Craigslist. Like, what could go wrong? So I responded to it. And I remember I only had on one sock for some reason. Like I just forgot to put on, so I have one sock on. It's freezing cold. And it was for Aaron Haber's, he had a comedy club.
Oh, The World?
You guys know comedy. The World. So we had this club, Broadway Comedy Club, and then upstairs is a room called The World. And I remember getting there, and I remember just standing out in the freezing cold being like, this is hard. And just remembering like, this is really hard. And then I sold one ticket. I bought a ticket for myself. And then Aaron, he was like, you can still go up. But I remember meeting Nate there, and he was like, hey, come here. And then he was like, is this something you really want to do? Like, you really want to do comedy? And I was like, yeah, I've been doing it in Boston. And he was like, okay. And then he's like, I don't want to get us in trouble right now. And he's like, but there's other ways to do it. Then you don't have to stand in the cold. He was like, and then he was kind of like, you don't have to like do what you're doing. And then it was Nate Bargatze.
Oh yeah,
so nice.
That's really nice.
Isn't that nice? Like
that's
was
really
like,
nice.
Yeah, and it was very nice. I wonder, I'm sure he doesn't remember that, but I just remember he was kind of like, what do you, and I think I mentioned that I was like, I just moved to New York like a couple days ago, something, and I saw this ad on Craigslist, and he was like, there's other ways to go about this.
Hey. Yeah, it's funny because I know I have a lot of friends that kind of came up barking for The World, or like Adrienne Appalucci was I didn't realize, I think she was an intern for Al Martin at Broadway.
Yeah. I interned for him for like
you guys keep going. I'll be back in 2 minutes, guys.
Unprofessional.
2 minutes.
Yeah. I never, so that's like, and I think honestly, like barking was horrible, but I was so young and I was so, you don't know better, but also like, I felt like I earned it. Does that make sense?
It means you're in it. Whenever I see people barking now out, like if I see that, I always try to stop and say, especially if I know they're comics, because then there's people that do it. And if you're watching this and you're from someplace where there aren't barkers, because in Boston
they hand out flyers for stage time. So you hand out,
literally say, like, if I was barking to Liz, I was never like that graded. I'd be like, comedy show. Do you want to go to a comedy show? And then
I would make jokes. Like I was trying to make it fun for myself. So I was always just like, I know you don't like me, but here's a show. Like, I mean, I was so young, but I was like, and then of course, you don't know better, but you're ripping off people's jokes. So like Mitch Hedberg had that joke where it's like, here, you throw this out. Like that's what it means when somebody gives you a flag. So of course you don't realize that you're ripping someone off. And I would go, here, you throw this out. And they would laugh. And that would get them to stop. And I'd be like, hey, I'm a comic. And you don't know, you've been doing it for 2 weeks and you're not a comic. Like,
did you ever meet Jude Destin?
I remember Jude.
Yes, I did all his shows. Yeah.
Whatever happened? Isn't he like super religious now, living somewhere or something?
I haven't stayed in touch with him, but I used to host for him all the time. And I remember
why can't I think of
the Village?
Village.
It's in the West Village. Because I always remember too. I remember walking down the street at the Village, and then the Comedy Cellar would be the last one, and I remember feeling like it was like walking up towards like I remember feeling that way. But Jude used to bark at people. I don't know if you saw this. He'd be like, if you don't stop, you're racist. And then people would be like, whoa. And then he'd be like, I gotcha. He's like, I don't know what your politics are. And then he would like launch into it. But I remember being like, I can't say that though. Like,
that would make no sense. They're like, if you don't stop, you love white people.
Right. Yeah. What's your fucking problem? But he was, I used to see him all the time. And then he just kind of, I don't know, maybe I guess he found God.
Yeah, good for him. I wish I found God.
Same here.
We would all be in a better place right now if we found God.
That happens a lot. You ever have that happen where it's like somebody you don't hear about for a while, or you see them all the time, and then they kind of drift away, and then the name comes up, and you're like, oh my God, what happened to that guy or that girl?
There was a guy who used to do comedy that now is like a really popular fitness instructor named Kyle. Do you guys remember Kyle? He used to be at Hot Comedy Club.
Kyle, he's a fitness instructor?
Yeah.
He's a fitness instructor. This is what I heard because someone said, they're like, do you remember that comedian Sergio and I were talking, and he said that Kyle's like a popular fitness instructor. He does like spin and has like a big.
He's a good dude, and he also
he's clearly personable. Like he knows how to talk to people. I honestly, that was my backup plan. I always said when I quit comedy, I was gonna pretend I never did it. Like literally, like delete everything.
Oh yeah, and then
so I would delete everything I could, and then I would become because I always liked working out, and I would become like a personal trainer. And then I'm very naturally funny, so they would laugh and they'd be like, "Oh my God, you should do comedy," and I'd be like, "Oh, I could never do that," and just pretend I'm a really exceptionally funny normal person. And that is how you make friends in the real world. They'll be like, "She's so funny."
She's so funny. That's like Kyle Fincham. He was one of those guys that guys I know him like pretty well, and they're like, he was like a year out of quitting, like he was like done a year, and they're like, hey, I spoke to Kyle, and I was like, oh, how's he doing? He's like, he's doing great. Like he's doing like he's so
doesn't it always feel
happy
like
that he quit comedy.
Yeah, like I think everybody's happy when they quit comedy. I
think people don't quit. I think a lot of people go, I'm coming back. I'm doing that happens a lot of people going back and forth.
But you do that with relationships. To me, that's just somebody that's scared to be alone or scared to make a choice. But like when people go, I'm going to do something better, and they really want to, I think that's when you really see people kind of pop off in a different life. I know people that went back to school, and
that's going to be a really hard decision, though. I mean, when you try that hard, I mean, it's just going to be that's got to be a big moment, I think.
But you're right though. It's like, but the weird thing is, Liz is right. Like the comedy thing. Like, say you go into something that's not like that's fitness is the perfect thing, because think about how many unfunny people are in fucking fitness. Like,
you really stand out.
That's what I'm saying. That's probably why he probably blows up on Instagram for his fitness.
And he has abs like right there. You're already better than most people in a CrossFit gym.
And he looks like he looks like cartoon Jake Gyllenhaal. Like he's got
he was a good looking guy,
like an action figure or something. That kid.
He was a good looking guy.
Let me just
no, please go.
No, I'm going to change the subject in a second. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that it's also becoming a draw. Like, he's trying to like have people mobilize around him, but probably feels much less personal than being a comedian. You know what I mean? Because it's like people need to come to his exercise class, but it doesn't feel as personal as if people are judging you. They're just judging you on how well you spin.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
How you are as a human being.
Yeah.
But you talk to people who go to classes, a lot of gyms, and I think you go to the gym a lot, right, Liz? I'm thinking Emma as well, right? Don't you guys go to classes?
Good for you. No, but I did a jiu-jitsu. I just went to LA. I was in. Thank you though.
Of course.
That.
You look great.
I did look great.
I meant it. Yeah.
I did look great.
I did
when we
look
went into
great.
lockdown. I did. I really did. It was never better. And then we went into lockdown and just stopped everything. And then I drove from Louisiana to LA, and I worked out today for the first time. And
maybe that's what I'm noticing.
Your neck looks cut. So
really? Well, I just did it one time though.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Look at these clavicles. You got it, girl.
Thank you.
But I think that the gym is like, there are people who are critical of their trainers, so you can fall into like, oh, this guy stinks. Like if you hear people talk about their yoga teachers and stuff, and you're like, it's a terrible yoga class or something. So there can be judgment, but it's not as bad as comedy.
But also, like, you start to pick teachers. So I did yoga for a very short amount of time. I like getting the shit kicked out of me, so I went to CrossFit after a while. I was mostly running, but like, yeah, I honestly, it was a little over a year when the pandemic happened, and I was really, my back was like awesome. Like my back looked amazing because I'm like climbing a rope and I'm like fucking lifting shit because I don't really
Liz has like the tattoos from Cape Fear, like
yeah. Oh man, I looked like I could survive in prison. So anyway, but I did yoga for a little bit because I injured myself running. This is like 2-3 years ago. And so there was a class down the street from me, and I tried all the teachers out. Like I was just like, we'll see which one. There was one woman that like half of it was doing and she like would play music. And I was like, is this an open mic? I was like, what the fuck is this? I hated anything that was spiritual, and I hated anything that was like foo-foo-y or breathing. I was like, why is half the class breathing? I know how to breathe. Clearly I'm very New Yorker, like go fuck yourself. But there was this old guy, he was like 65 years old, super hippie. He would play like Led Zeppelin while you were doing it. And he had like mantras, but they were mantras like, exhale negativity, breathe in your future. Like they were like kind of fun, but like it just felt like it was a class and it was thoughtful, but he wasn't trying to push his ideas on me or his fucking band or whatever. Right. I loved him. Like so that's the other thing is like I tried every single one, and there was only 2 teachers I would go to, and eventually they didn't have enough classes, and I was like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. Like I'm more angry after yoga than I was when I started yoga.
Okay, let me ask you guys this, because I don't know. It's so funny when your universe, like I'm checking my phone so much during quarantine. I'm like, this is my entire world. The newest trend on Instagram, and I want to hear what you have to say, is the challenge accepted, the women supporting women challenge. And Emma is hiding right now. I don't know why you're hiding. What I wanted to do is I wanted to ask you guys, because it's happening now, and I think there's people that are kind of goofing on it. There's people that are really into it. Somebody is posting the definition of challenge to kind of be like, it's not a challenge. And
right.
So I wanted to see, what do you guys, I don't even know if you posted the picture or not, but what do you guys think about it? You started doing it? No. Emma, what do you think? You think?
Yeah,
this is my baby. It's my big idea. Have you done it, Liz? I haven't done it.
So 3 different friends sent me like the block thing. Yeah. And I went, like the first one was like, comic peer, we'll say.
Did you think it was that they wrote that out? Because the first one I thought the woman wrote, because it's someone I know kind of loosely, and it actually could be the way she talks. So when I got it, I was like, oh, I didn't know it was like a math
I'm
thing.
so used to these chain things that I saw it and I just went, hey, I care about you. I think you're great, but I'm not doing this. Mm-hmm. And then the next was my old manager. And I literally wrote, I love you. I am not doing this. And because I know her and I could just be myself. And I was like, I love you. I am not doing this. And she was like, hey, she's pregnant. So she's like, I'm like literally in an office for 3 hours. Because the other thing is like, you have to send it to 50 women. I was like, this is friendship. 50.
Oh, 50? Is it really 50?
50. So I was like, first of all, I don't care that we're in a pandemic.
It's like a trendy, it's like an online trend bringer show.
Right. Yeah. But it's like, it's a chain mail, but instead of threatening you, it's like, you're basically punishing your friends. So this is the thing. Yeah. I was like, my little sister was like, do I have to do this? I was like, it's stupid. No, you don't. Just say. And then even like a couple of comics. And then a couple of comics are like, are you doing this? And I go, hey, I was like, because the other thing is it makes it feel like you're hurting your friend. And I was like, this is why chain mail, like chain, email.
Chain letters. Yeah.
Oh, like it feels less about the bad luck and more you're like, oh my God, can my kids not play with their kids because I didn't do this fucking chain?
Do I care less about women if I don't do this?
Exactly. So I was like, hey, I wanted to be like I don't get defensive about that stuff. I'm just like, I know what I do for my friends and for people in this business. I don't give a shit. So I was just very nice and I was like, I'm not doing this. So then everybody's like, all my friends are like, are you doing this? I was like, I'm not doing this. And it's also annoying because the way it's set up is like you post a picture of yourself, you thank the person, and then and I was like, this is doesn't feel like anything. And then of course somebody posts, and apparently it started in Turkey, and it had to do with women being murdered. And
God
then
damn it.
I know
knew something. I knew there was going to be something, and it was like, and if you don't do it, you support murder. But also,
no, that's not
away from Black Lives or something.
No. You don't have. I still don't think we have anything to worry about, because it got just like the telephone where like the message is like, help women in Turkey get murdered, and it turns out like love is love, and if you post a picture of yourself. So basically, what it was supposed to be is like these women in Turkey are being murdered, but then the people, and then there'd be a black and white photo in the newspaper, but then the people murdering them are men, and they would get a slap on the wrist and nothing would happen. So what they were trying to show is to get women to kind of be together and show that we could be the next woman that's murdered, and to get this spoken out there. But it got so white wishy-washied with Americanism that by the time it got to us, it was like, put a hot selfie of yourself and tell your friends to do the same thing.
Why are they murdering those women? Why are they doing that?
I read a little bit. I probably should have read more.
Well, I heard it's because there's another online trend where you murder a woman.
Yes,
it's supposed to be that's part of
that one.
And that's the guy's Instagram trend where challenge accepted.
Right.
I'll murder this woman.
I think it just has to do probably with women's rights, and there's no accountability the same way that we have that with police brutality and black people. Like there's no accountability, and they want to bring awareness.
Yeah.
Right. And that's great, but that's not the message I got was like, I love you and women should support women. Too. And I was like, I don't need to prove that I support women. And how is me posting a picture of me support? I just was like, and then honestly, if it would have said nominate one person, I might have done it. But when it said 50, I was like, fuck you. I have 50 things to do. I don't know what they are, but I have things to do.
Let me ask you this though. Would you post it now knowing the new information, or like
no, because it's gotten bullshit. What I did do is I took the information and I put it on my Insta stories, or I thought I did. I might have not. I sent it to my sister. I know that much. What I do try to do is like just the same way. Cause like, when they told us to put the black box for Black Lives Matter, and then it turned out that it was like black, like it was diminishing all the information. Right. And then of course, all my black friends were like, you idiots, and I was like, hey, I think there was good intentions behind it, but it wasn't thought through. But don't yell at me for having tried to do something supportive that turned out to be I'm willing to like make a change or whatever. And I kept updated with it, but I'm allowed to make mistakes as an ally, and I'm doing the best I can. Don't yell at me when I'm doing my best and I fall short. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you can correct me and you can say, hey, we didn't fully think through, but it felt like there was a thing, it got trended, it seemed like a good idea, and I did it, and then I got yelled at for it. And I was like, I always go back to Chappelle. I don't know what special it was on, but he talks about imperfect allies. And I was like, you have to let people make mistakes. I feel that way even with comedy.
Yeah, nobody's perfect.
The world is changing, and we're all going to say idiotic things on stage, and I'm going to say idiotic things to my friends. I feel very fortunate that comedy is so diverse that I've said things on stage and I've had my friends go, hey, that made me a little uncomfortable and this is why. And because my friend is close to me, they didn't feel weird about telling it to me, and I didn't feel weird about accepting it. And really, it's like, I find it so funny when a joke gets like shit on or canceled or whatever. And you're like, I did a focus group. Like I did a focus group for 2 years on this joke with comics, with my fans, with audiences that don't even know who I am. So if one person doesn't like it, that's just how jokes work. Not everybody's going to like it. But the average amount of people knew it was a joke. Yeah. And that Emma, it was fine.
Emma, what do you think about the challenge thing? You didn't do it, I'm guessing.
I haven't done it. I got it one yesterday, and that was I got whatever it was the day when I was driving, I got it. And that's the one that I thought was this person specifically challenging me, because it did sound kind of the way she would talk a little bit.
Well, as a guy, do you remember anything the paragraph said? Like
I could read it to you.
Oh yeah, you haven't done one. Oh, you don't know.
I don't know. I'm in the,
yeah, of course not.
Dude, when I read it to you, you're going to see how like weirdly womanly contrived it is.
Well, the way that I feel about these things is I didn't do the black square. I don't do it when it is guys involved in them. I don't do them. For the main, I just don't, because the main reason is from reasons what you just described, where it's like you're either going to get misconstrued.
Honestly, I find how you choose to do your social media is up to you. I don't think what your social media is represents you. I mean, it can if you decide. But I also think
totally different ones. Wouldn't that be weird if
I'll read it. This is what all of them said. I was careful to choose who I think will meet. I hate reading out loud. I was careful to choose who I think will meet the challenge, but above all, who I know who shares this type of thinking. Among women, there are several criticisms. Instead, we should take care of each other. We are beautiful the way we are. Post a photo in black and white alone, written challenge accepted, and mention my name. Identify 50 women to do the same in private. I choose you because you are beautiful, strong, and incredible. Let's love each other. And I just wrote back, I went, hey, I'm not gonna say who it was. I think you're great. I appreciate you, but I'm not participating in this chain post.
And I hate to be a jerk, but you're not putting that much thought in it. If you have to send it to 50 people, after a while, you're just clicking. You're just clicking names on your email.
Also, you're just punishing your friends.
It should be, like you said, it should be 3 people tops that you're like, they really will be into this type of thing.
Yeah,
I don't appreciate getting a mass one like that. I was like, oh, you didn't even write. Like if I was going to send this, I would have said, hey, Liz, like I just got this mass thing. Just wanted to send some kind, give me a touch of, something.
Yeah. I mean,
that's, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
It's like when you get a mass text and people are like, is this a mass text?
And I'm not judging any woman that's done it. I get it. Like it's a way to have camaraderie and, like I'm not mad at anybody that's done it, but like first of all, I'm not going to fucking go make my friends have busy work. This feels like such contrived. You know what I mean? It feels like such made up closeness. Cause to me, if I really wanted to show Emma that I feel like we're in comedy together and she's my peer and I support what you do, I would write to her and be like, hey, I saw you on this thing. I'm so proud of you. I remember when we started together. You know what I mean? And I would be like,
it's like, thanks, Liz.
Thanks. Thank you. I'm taking it.
Yeah. But I would be like, there's this challenge going around to support other women. I want you to know that I've always been proud of everything you've done. And I feel proud to know you.
Fucking post it then.
Yeah. You put your heart into it, ladies.
Yeah. Oh, sold.
Right. There's like, that's where
I remember when you were a wee comic.
That's where the problem lies. I think it's intention. So the intention of just getting it done because you were told to do it and you don't want to look like you don't agree with the message. But what you said is the intention is to actually have actual personal connection and make everything like as focused as possible and personalized as possible, so the other person knows that you mean what you're saying. It's a real
connection. You're saying that women support other women, but I do support other women. That's the other thing is I think you're able to set boundaries, and I'm just learning this through like therapy and my own life as somebody that has had challenges setting boundaries and sticking up for myself. But it's been so much easier in my adulthood and through therapy to go, I can feel it in my gut that this bothers me. And I'm not going to let what I think somebody might think of me by saying no control my actions. So I'm not judging anybody that's did it because they want to do it and they love it. But like for me, my gut response was, fuck this. This feels disingenuous, even from my manager, my ex-manager who I love. I'm not doing this, and I'm not going to let not doing this affect our relationship. So that's why I had several women go, how did you say no? And I showed them, I was like, this is how I said no. And I even was like empowering to that. That's where my real support came. And my support for women came into showing how they could say no to other women.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just, that speaks more to me than being like, yeah, I'll do your mass email. Like I'll set up your Facebook invite for fucking solidarity. That makes no sense.
I sat there and showed Carmen, this was last year, I sat there and helped set up her MailChimp, explained everything about MailChimp, and showed her how to send out like an email to her fans. I was like, that's supporting women. I sat there and piece by piece taught her MailChimp. Like there's a part of me that's like, that's where you get to a point where like you really do have confidence, and I'm learning about how to build confidence, but I'm like, you can't trick me into like, and that's where I also feel confident when it does come to Black Lives Matter, where it's like, I'll post this because I believe in this, but I'm not going to post this because I don't think this is in line with my thinking. And also I know how I support the Black community. I know how I support my Black friends. I know how I'm there for the cause. So I think more and more you don't get pressured by these things because you're like, I know who I am in this community and how I support people and the parts that I am doing behind the scenes, which I think is more important than putting up anything on Instagram.
It's also all right. So one of my favorite things ever in the world is the Anthony Jeselnik bit, the thoughts and prayers bit. You ever hear the thoughts and prayers? that to me sums up all of this stuff. All this stuff gets a lot of it, unless like I'm not saying that there's not good intentions that come out of it, but then what happens is after a while, when it gets on a mass level, what you have is what's happening in that bit, which don't forget about me. I'm here. I'm not racist. I'm for women. Don't forget about me. It's more about the self than it is about the unselfish act.
And posting a picture of yourself, like in this scenario.
Yeah, how does that
I now
help?
understand what they were doing with Turkey, which was saying that I could be the next person to die and nobody would care. But in this scenario that we were given, it was like, why am I posting a picture of
pictures of them like with like blood or what they would look like if they were gonna die?
Yeah.
It should be like this. Like the cigarettes thing where they show like in certain countries in Europe, like they have like black lung on the cigarette, like put it one of like people of violence and people, but you can't really do that.
And that would get attention. People would be like, what the fuck happened to you? And be like, it's not what happened to me yet, but it could if I was in Turkey.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I'll do that.
But then you get reported for the violence and then
do the real work.
Yeah, you should take it over for Turkey and then start your own
and then maybe
accept this challenge.
Maybe you heard the wrong thing and it's like some other thing. You're like, what are you even talking about? Turkey. And I'm like, well, they're killing people over there.
You don't do any research. You're like,
somebody told me.
They got some issues there. And I heard.
Weirdo. You just posted a picture of yourself shot in the head. I'm like, I don't know.
I read a blog.
Did you guys see about Joe Rogan moving to LA? I'm sure you did. I mean, moving to Texas.
Moving to Texas. I heard about it.
Yeah. I just watched the clip where he said he's going to, but I feel like that's just going to be.
What a weird time to move. I mean, I know LA
I don't necessarily disagree.
I don't at all. The taxes, like he's going to save so much money on taxes.
He'll be able to build a whole show-wise, it makes sense. But also what he was saying as far as population goes, he's right. Like he's like LA is overpopulated, and I'm like, yeah, you kind of have to. That's why when I was actually shocked at first when quarantine happened, they were like, besides the people that go away for the summer. In New York, 10% of the people have already left. And I was like, wow. I'm like, wow. And I was kind of nervous. I'm like, oh man, it's going to be. And then I'm like, no, there's still 8 million people in New York City.
I actually wanted to find out what the statistics were, because you know how they say during the day, it's 8 million people because you have people coming in from Jersey and Connecticut. And
it goes up. It goes up. No,
I wonder, we don't have anybody going to work. And then we have people that have left. We have people that have moved away. We have people that abandoned their apartments. Like, I wonder how many people are in the city right now.
It's not a lot at all. Like I went down by the Cellar and it was like, it's very ominous. There's people, but it's like, it doesn't feel.
What do you think? Like 2 million?
No, probably. No, it's gotta be more than that because some people just where they live.
Yeah.
And like when they say 9 million, when it was 9 million, I think that includes all the boroughs.
It includes all the boroughs, but it also includes the people coming in from Jersey and Connecticut.
I don't think it does. Does it?
No. It was always during the day. It's 9 million, but
I always
that was 9 million was like how many people, like how many cars and people coming in. And 9 million is noon on a Monday, but like when people aren't tourists and like take out tourists, take out workers, and you have physical people that have apartments that live here. I think it's about half. Like, I really think 4 million.
There's still a whole fuck ton of people. I mean,
no. Of course there is.
Some amount of space, but it's a lot less than that.
Yeah. I didn't realize that was included. I thought it was 9 million living within the 5 boroughs.
No. That 9 million is daytime. 9 million is tourists and commuters.
Oh yeah. So maybe it might be down to like, I don't know, maybe like 3.
Yeah, I'd just be curious. I would love to know because I've taken the subway a bunch. Like you're in LA right now, right, Emma?
I am. So I was quarantined in Louisiana, and then I had a show in Kansas City. And I know but I was driving back to LA anyway. I know the guy, Dustin. I was supposed to do a show in Salt Lake City and I didn't do it because I just felt bad.
Was it indoors?
Yeah, the Salt Lake City one was. So in Kansas City, I know the guy, and the way he did it was. Have you done the Comedy Club of Kansas City?
No.
Oh, I have.
I saw your picture there. Was actually. So he had it. I'd say it was like maybe like 10% full, and everyone was really spread out. And
it's a big club.
Big club. You had to wear a mask. Everyone had to wear a mask. He did it really well. I felt really weird doing it. I had a really good time Thursday night, and then Friday, Saturday, and my dad was like flipping it up, mad at me. He was like pissed. Yeah. But It was really, and then so we were there, and then I came back to LA, and we just got to LA. But
Wow.
it was.
So
I've
you
never
haven't
done
been
that drive before.
Oh, I drove my sister. So my sister moved to LA like 4 years ago. So I drove her and her cat from Jersey to LA, and we did it fast because my whole thing is like I told her I'll do it during the week so I don't miss any gigs, and we have to be fast about it. So what we did, and I don't like traffic, so we would wake up every day at 3 a.m. We would do 11. We do between 10 and 11 hours. We would switch every 2 hours. So I would take I would take 3 to 5. She would take 5 to 7. Like we did that.
See, I didn't drive at all because my girlfriend doesn't like my driving. Not a big fan. She drove the whole way.
Oh, dude!
I know.
Wow.
I felt bad. I didn't want her to. I was like, I feel weird, and she was like,
"You must be a really bad driver."
I mean, I'm not
fun
great.
to do.
And not only am I not great, I also don't have my license technically right now. So, but I still got to.
That's more pertinent information than you're not good.
These details.
Legal, illegal, license, not license.
I could have still physically done it, but she didn't want
hilarious.
Wow. Well, guys, I hate to do this, but we have to wrap up. But I want to do plugs before we get out of here. So, Liz, where can we find you?
Everything is at Liz Miele. I have a new special on YouTube called Self Help Me. Yeah. And then I have a podcast with my friend Maria Shahada called Two Non-Doctors, and comes out new episodes every Tuesday, and we're morons that talk about health.
And Emma COVID-19 Willmann, where can we find you?
I just got tested yesterday, actually.
Negative? You don't know
negative.
yet?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Negative. Yeah. It wasn't bad. The rapid test isn't bad. It doesn't go like
into your brain. It's not a frontal lobotomy like the.
Oh, I hate those.
Have you done it? You did those ones? It's
I've heard about them.
It is up. I actually asked the doctor, I was like, can I touch you? And he was kind of like, huh? And then I grabbed his arm when he was doing it because it felt so like
it sucks. Where can they find you?
Emma Willmann on everything, but mostly Instagram. And I'm thinking about getting TikTok. I don't know.
I'm on it.
Whoa.
I'm doing actually pretty well on it, so I highly recommend it.
Are you on it, Sean?
I'm on it. Yeah,
you are. All right.
Yeah. But I feel really weird. I feel really weird about it.
Nobody's dancing.
No dancing. Okay. No, I'm dancing topless next to a pool.
Put your stand-up on it. Get some fans. I've got a bunch of fans. I'll be honest. I got a lot of people because it can link to your Instagram and your YouTube. So I've had tons of people watch my special because they found one clip.
Oh, that's great.
Well,
and
that's
it's much. And just a little insight,
great.
It's much easier to go viral on TikTok than it is anywhere else.
That is true.
Really?
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for doing this. And everybody watching, thank you so much for watching Comedy Cellar Nightly. Look at all these people up. They're fantastic. It was so good to see you guys.
Great to see you guys.
Challenge accepted. We're gonna get out of here. Thank you so much. Thanks to Mike, the producer. And we'll see you tomorrow night. You'll see